In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the current conditions here where there is multiple different areas of storminess, both severe weather potentially, and snowfall in certain parts of the nation. And then we're going to be taking a look at some of the upcoming storms. We have plenty of opportunities for snowfall in the eastern half of the nation and really just around the nation in general. And then colder air shifting from the west over to the east is going to be one of the more interesting points that we're going to go over as well within this video. Let's just dive into these current conditions though. There is some frontal boundaries offshore of the west, and this is going to lead towards storminess, and we can see some of that working its way towards the coast already as we speak. So we'll zoom in, take a look at that in a minute. Really, the main thing here is a big low here located over southern Colorado, northern New Mexico, and this is forcing a lot of this air to the north here. And we see it diving southward here in a lot of these areas. So we see this kind of a flow. We see this warm front, or maybe a stationary front at this point, here over a lot of the Ohio Valley. And this is leading towards a big time warm sector here in the deeper south. And that's why we're seeing these isolated thunderstorms taking place. Very spring-like weather for these areas. Certainly going to be something to watch along these regions. And then we can see on the northern extent of a lot of this broad low pressure is going to be snowfall. So let's take a look here at the west. We'll just zoom in. We can see there's some lows offshore. We see plenty of rainfall and showers really taking place for a lot of these areas. But it looks like the more northern regions of California are about to get some of the worst of it. It looks like there is a low maybe developing in here. We have this warm front that looks like it wants to swing to the north. So this could lead towards more showery activity in here. And then the swinging cold front underneath with that low would lead towards even more precipitation for these regions. Now, as we take a look at the main area associated with this stronger low pressure system, we can see that there is some showers both in the form of rainfall and snowfall depending on elevation here for a lot of Arizona and New Mexico there. And then we can see that just ahead of this kind of stationary warm front area, we do have another sector of heavier showers, maybe even thunderstorms for this area here, as we kind of have a low up here over the upper Midwest with a stretching cold front. This is almost meeting up with it right here, but it's just a little bit of separation, as you can see, between these two frontal boundaries. And this one seems to be no precipitation associated with it. Very interesting setup, though, regardless. As we work our way just a little bit northward, we can see snowfall extending all the way from Utah through Colorado and Wyoming, even into the plains like South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska here. We see the bright whites popping up, indicating very heavy snowfall, but the blues in there for South Dakota, or actually better yet, Nebraska, is going to be just whiteout conditions, like blizzard conditions. You're not even going to be able to see anything. It's going to be absolute madness in that area. We can see this warm sector here. Again, this is going to be the divider right here. Is going to be the stationary front. Everywhere south of there is basically in the warm sector at this point, and we are seeing just isolated thunderstorms. Again, very spring, summer-like weather here for a lot of these areas. Here we can see them stretching from the Gulf of Mexico all the way into the deeper south. It's going to be a very stormy day for a lot of these areas, and we can see a lot of this picking up for Texas actually. Over the past few hours, we saw it was pretty stormy, but we see a lot of this pick up on the western end of things quickly. It's a stormy day on the way here that we have, and then we see for some of these Gulf states, the northern regions, especially here of these Gulf states, we see another pocket of these very isolated thunderstorms. This reminds me of a lot of spring setups. We don't have this setup today, but oftentimes you'll have a low up here, a swinging cold front underneath, and a warm front here. In your very intense severe weather events for these areas, and you will have this same type of thunderstorms taking place. Oftentimes it's actually these types of thunderstorms that hold us back from seeing extreme severe weather, because this brings down the potential. It eats up a lot of that potential for severe weather. So once these storms over here swing through, these kind of eat it up. But again, today we don't have that swinging cold front look, so that's going to be way back here. So this is not what we're taking a look at all today, but definitely that's what this reminds me of, which is very interesting. As we work our way towards the northeast, we can see a passing shower or two, but mostly quieter here along the eastern United States. As you can see, very quiet for these areas here. Now what we're going to do is move on, focusing on the upcoming pattern where, again, there's plenty of storms to go over, and also that swing of the temperatures into the eastern United States. Now, as we just move on with this European model, we can see things are really about to explode in this warm sector. Again, we have our low developing here. More snowfall actually later on today for a lot of these regions. This is probably by the time we're reaching about 8 p.m. tonight, so quite a bit away from today, or right now at least. We see the warm sector here, where a lot of these areas are experiencing these showers and isolated thunderstorms. Mostly the further west you go towards the low, that's pretty typical as well. Now, as we continue on towards tomorrow afternoon, we can see that a lot of this storminess is going to be taking place over the deeper south here. We can see that this warm front is now over this area here, which is leading towards some showery activity, mostly for the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast here, as well as some of the Mid Atlantic. So, definitely some big regions here seeing some of these showers tomorrow, and then again, the deeper south with more of this severe weather and thunderstorm potential underneath. As we move on towards Wednesday afternoon, we see a lot of the eastern United States is where we'll be seeing most of this activity, the swinging cold front underneath, the warm front up above. This leads towards a warm sector with a swinging cold front underneath. Definitely some potential for thunderstorms, and not only that, severe weather as well. Some snowfall still lingering for Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin there. And then our next big storm system out west here coming on shore, bringing snowfall for Oregon, Nevada, and California, and then rainfall for some of those lower elevation regions. Let's just keep going with this, and we can tell by this point on Friday, we can see that there is definitely some cooler air making its way into the eastern United States. And then we see this storminess moving in with the jet stream here. Again, snowfall for Oregon and California, as well as Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, even New Mexico and Arizona seeing some of that. So certainly plenty of snowfall happening out west. Now, for the first time, we are seeing the European model trend at some snowfall. It's pretty minor at this point, but we are starting to get this European model on board with what the GFS has been showing for a while now. We get snowfall first off Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, then Pennsylvania, West Virginia, a lot of the Appalachian Mountain Range. It kind of slips off innocently, and we get mostly snowfall in this area here. So we'll see that on the total snowfall in just a little while. But it slips offshore instead of heading up to the north here, which would lead towards more of an east coast solution with potential snowfall. But regardless, it is showing a snowstorm now, so that is certainly a big step in the right direction, I would say. We are pretty close to something here if there's a little bit more cold air. We have a pretty gentle trough here in the east, but what we see is a storm moving up like this, but it kind of just slips off shore just like this and never really connects with the jet stream up to the north. So we see this again, this motion. You'll see something like this take place and it slips off like that. And what we really need is, and I'll put it in dots, but we need to see it track like this with the cold. And that's what would lead towards a big time snowstorm. So let's again track this. Watch all this energy. See how it just slips off? It doesn't go up with the dotted lines. It heads with the arrow that I drew before. But if it headed up north with those dotted lines, we would certainly see a connection. We can tell there's cold enough air up here because we're seeing snowfall showers currently. So definitely some potential there around the 10th through 12th time frame, maybe even through the 14th. Definitely needs to be watched, and we'll see what the GFS has to say right now. So let's take a look at this as we head towards the 5th. We'll start here. We see this cold air move in. And under GFS model, we actually get a bit of a moderate snowstorm here for the Northeast right away on the 5th through the 6th time frame. Only a few days from now. And then what we get is a bit of a southern slider type snowstorm here right around your 7th, 8th, 9th time frame. And this leads towards a bit of snowfall here for these areas here. I have seen snowfall events like this happen before, so it's not to be ruled out. And especially when you see a jet stream like this, there's a big red ridge out west here, but then look, it just stays flat like this. You see how it just flat out goes off the coast? This usually leads towards storms kind of meeting up with it and then sliding like we saw that storm just do. So the setup is definitely there for something very flat like that. It's a more rare storm track, but not unheard of. Now, here, right around the 10th, this is a very close call here on your GFS model. Again, we have a storm signal on both of these models, but look at how close this is to the coast, and look at how much cold air is diving southward here. This has potential to be a snowstorm all the way up and down the east coast here, even for the Carolina coastline here, according to the GFS model, very, very close miss there. And that, again, innocently just kind of moves off the coast. Then we get a more broad snowstorm here with two low pressure systems right around the 13th time frame. And this does move up and become a bit of a nor'easter. Here's a 993, more major snow system here. Certainly going to be interesting to track all of these systems. And then we get, again, a bit of a cutter here, but a 986 millibar low pressure center with major snowfall for some of these areas here. So this is probably the fourth or fifth snowstorm we're seeing here on this model run. So certainly a very snowy and very cold model run. And as we take a look at the total snowfall there, it's pretty clear that there is many different states seeing some potential snowfall here. And even then, we have some close misses. So there is more potential here than even this, but very interesting to see. Now, the total precipitation through the next 10 days, according to your European model here, anywhere in the whites, it is practically no precipitation. Your grays are a tenth of an inch or less. Your greens a tenth of an inch to half an inch. Blues half an inch to an inch. Your yellows an inch to 2 inches. Reds 2 to 5 inches there, and then your browns are going to be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. So we can see there is quite a bit of this precipitation on a European model going at like this and even like this as well. But really the main highlight here is going to be your west coast regions where we're seeing just gargantuan amounts of precipitation there. Not only the 5 to 10 inches in the browns, but we're even seeing blues there, which are 10 to 15 inches. So certainly a lot of storminess still on the way for these areas here. Now, total snowfall through the next 10 days, anywhere in the grays is a dusting, if anything. Blues 2 to 6 inches, purple 6 to 10, pinks 10 to 20 there. Your pastel blues 20 to 35, and then your pastel pinks 35 inches plus. We see a lot of that out west where we expect the most precipitation in these mountains that will certainly have that in the form of snowfall. Now, your temperature pattern according to your European ensemble model, warmth all the way up until, and especially midweek here along the east, but all the way up until about the weekend, so Friday into Saturday. Then we get this cold air for the southeast and the upper Midwest and northern plains, but some warmth in between, certainly going to make it a unclear pattern. We get this cold or neutral temperatures around all the way through about the 10th, and then we warm up a little bit. But longer range, we do see things cooling back down for the east as we approach the 15th, according to this European model. Anyway, guys, that is it for this video. We are going to be tracking these things every single day as we do daily uploads here on the channel. Be sure to subscribe so you catch those every time. You can also hit the bell icon so you never miss an upload. That will send you daily notifications when we do upload. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.